So a couple of weeks ago, we started talking about Netflix's new Polish production, their first scripted Polish production, 1983. We covered the first 3 episodes. I have no idea why we covered 3 out of 8. Why didn't we go to 4 and go halfway?
Well, because we'd only seen 3.
A couple of things there, dear listeners. We were a little drunk that day. We just reviewed every beer in the world with Peter from the House of Beer. And I was listening back to that episode. I was a bit embarrassed, actually. The clear effects of alcohol.
Yeah, we were not in our top form there, but we're back. We're reasonably sober right now. So we'll see
in
what
the
happens.
last episode on 1983, I kind of took to task the use of the words Orwellian and kind of,
Dave was getting philosophical there.
I kind of just been waiting for a moment to pounce on Orwellian tendencies. They just seem to permeate everything, and it's like Dickensian or Kafkaesque.
Yeah.
But actually, this show, if any show's premise has earned the word Orwellian, it's this one, really, isn't it? I mean,
but we're going to leave that behind us now, right? Let's move forward.
Let's embarrassed about that.
Let's leave Orwell behind us. Anyway, we're back to review episodes 4 to 8, basically the halfway plus 1, or however you want to look at it. We'll talk about what happened and our general impressions. Just the warning, same warning as last time. Spoilers ahead if you haven't finished it. Let's get to it. Dr. Mike, take us through, in broad strokes, take us through what happens in the second half of 1983.
The second bigger half. Okay, this is going to be kind of in a nutshell, TLDR, though actually we didn't, if you didn't watch it. Kajetan.
Spoilers ahead.
Too long didn't watch.
Exactly. Kajetan, our protagonist, one of our main protagonists, is like digging deeper into the photograph he was given by his professor, and figures out that photograph was taken at the wedding of his girlfriend's father, who is also the minister of economy. So he figures out this is a deep-going conspiracy. Anatol, the police officer, digs in deeper and finds out the government is spying on everybody. We all know that, but the uncle is involved in that as well. Uncle being this Vietnamese immigrant who is involved in all shady underground conspiracies. He also finds out some details about Kajetan's parents. His parents, turns out, weren't actually heroes of the socialist Communist Party, but actually were involved in the underground. But when his dad got caught, his dad, freaked out and sold out the other resistant members and decided to spy on them on the part of the government, while his mom, not knowing this, decided to actually help the underground movement.
All right, Mike, let me interrupt you there. Let me interrupt you. On behalf of all our listeners, let me interrupt you, please. Let me throw a question out. This is a question for you, Dave and Josh, as well. As these details were being kind of revealed, did you feel like they were being kind of like spoon-fed to you, or did you have to kind of like read between the lines? How easy was it to follow what was going on?
Not terribly easy, actually. I mean, there were a few things that kind of, when they got revealed, you had that sense of, okay, this happens. This is kind of typical of drama. There's a twist here. What kind of twist? Oh, yes, no, actually, secretly, he was working or she was working for the other side. So sometimes it was like, oh, yeah, what a surprise.
It's a naughty old plot, all right, but an extra element, of course, is you're trying to figure out the geopolitics that have happened since 1983, why Poland is the way it is, and you're distracting yourself trying to figure out all that, and at the same time you've got quite a complicated actual plot unfolding before you. Yeah,
did you ever feel
I had a little trouble keeping up?
Yeah, did you feel that they were trying too hard to make it complicated and deep and complex in a way that it didn't need, like trying too hard to make it mysterious?
Yeah, I think they were. You didn't really believe in a lot of the incentives and like the characters, that this was like how they naturally would have progressed in the real world. So I didn't know what their actual motivations were. It just seemed like, okay, everything worked at the speed of plot. Okay, this guy has to do this because it fills in these plot holes. These guys has to do this because it fills in those plot holes.
But the idea is you do that with wonderful actors and good set dressing, and what you end up is a fast-paced, really well put together drama.
Pacing, that's the word. Yeah, I thought it was too slow at times.
Like you said, spoon feeding. Sometimes it would be like they would shovel down a bunch down your throat at one moment, and then for half an episode it would be like nothing's going on. They're just building up atmosphere and character, but nothing actually. It doesn't.
All right, Mike, take us back to the plot and take us to the end.
Okay, Antonel finds out that Kajetan's parents were mixed in the whole situation that ended with the explosions back in '83. Turns out his mother might have actually helped the terrorists gets paperwork to enter the country. At least that's how it's presented, that they might have been the terrorists, because she ends up driving these people to all the cities, to the train station to go to all the cities.
The Irish.
Yeah, the Irish.
Oh, man, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, one of those priests, basically, he sounded like Liam Nielsen to me. I mean,
the minute the Irish priest came into it, Natalia's like, see, Irish? I was like, yeah, terrorist.
Hey, in the 80s, you guys were all about the boom boom.
I suppose it's accurate to the period, all right. But I was a little bit of a facepalm moment for me. But
yeah, but the way they're setting it up, it's like maybe they did it, maybe they didn't do it. We think they did it, but we're not sure. But at the end, for helping out these guys, they thank Kaitan's mom by shooting her on the beach.
classic terrorism.
Yes. It's like, it's very Irish, and it's like, oh, thank you, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But Kaitan figures out this whole conspiracy theory. He doesn't trust anybody, including his girlfriend. He hooks up with Ophelia, the leader of the resistance movement. I think it's because he's an executive producer. He's allowed to have sex scenes with all the attractive women in the show. I think it's kind of maybe in his contract somewhere.
It's quite an erotic one, the last one. Actually.
Yeah, it's quite frisky. And it goes on for a little bit longer. I mean, I don't mind, but it's like it seems a little too long for the actual feel of the show. We also find out that the general is planning some kind of coup against the government.
The general is great in it, man.
Uniforms are laughable, though.
He's got this beautifully well-worn face.
Yeah.
They're not laughable. I thought the uniforms were
powder blue.
Yeah.
Come on. They look like, I don't know, looks like...
Uruguayan dictators.
like a kindergarten military force or something.
I totally disagree.
It's baby blue, but Kayatan basically finds out, together with the resistance movement, that the government had been disappearing parents and then taking these kids and raising them.
Can I interrupt you again?
Sure, go ahead.
This I liked. The whole they took the elite, the kind of dangerous intellectuals in society. They wiped them out, and then they replanted their kids inside the party apparatus. Yeah. Would that be a fair summation?
Basically, yeah. It's like
I like that.
It's a nice little good. Last generation. It's like not only will we make sure that they forget you, but they'll actually be working against what you were fighting for. And Ophelia finds out about
very
this.
Orwellian.
But it turns out that one of the young resistant leaders who kind of got the ball rolling was actually being influenced by Trojan, a minister. Well, he's the one of the, God. There's so many ministers I get confused. And he basically set up this resistance movement, seemingly to get rid of everybody else who was involved in the conspiracy that he was involved with 20 years earlier. This is where it gets kind of confusing. And the kids, they decide to...
I was confused long before now.
The kids decide to hack, because there always has to be hacking, the social network to let everybody know about what's going on. But just as they're preparing to do that, both the secret police and the regular police try to storm their hideout, because of course they have a resistance hideout. Lots of people die. All the beautiful people die. Kaitan barely escapes.
Anatol gets very stressed out around this time.
Yeah, because he actually just wanted to arrest these people, but he knew that because of his efforts, the secret police now can wipe the resistance out completely. Yes, and Kaitan just barely gets away while watching his beloved Ophelia get shot and killed, which I think is kind of funny, because it was one of those situations like, why don't you just go with him? They didn't see you go there. Like, she's like, I'll cover you.
Were you yelling at the TV?
I wasn't, but it is one of those situations where the only reason they had her stay there to cover his escape was so she could get shot.
Can I just say, I think we should possibly not reveal the final twist, which is also quite cool. Otherwise, we might be accused of, excessive spoilers.
All right, so we're going to stop just short of total spoiler here, right?
Okay, yeah, no, give it to them. Give them the big twist at the end.
That was easy.
The big twist at the end is really good,
The big twist at the end is like, Antonov finds out that Kaitan's parents, first of all, they weren't heroes of the socialist paradise, but were actually against them. It turns out that they both survived the explosions. They weren't killed. Kaitan's dad was sent off to a prison camp in Vietnam and died there in the 90s, so Kaitan could have still seen his father. While his mother it seemed to disappear. And at the end, when we saw her get shot, when we just find out that she survived, then we find out that she got shot. Then, a few scenes later, we see her hand moving, and she's actually alive. And then, yes, and then Kaitan realizes he's in deep shit, and he's got to get out of the country, and he does get out of the country. Bit of a twist how he does that, but whatever. And he walks up and finds his mother in the U.S. She's still alive.
I thought that was a really
wow
kind of twist at the end.
Mike, well done. Take a break.
And she had a very heavy Irish accent as well when she's speaking English.
How many nationalities are represented in this whole show? It's unbelievable. All right, Dave, satisfying ending or just glad it was over or what?
Well, they're setting it up for season 2. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of stuff left hanging about what's happened in the 20 years since 1983 that could make for a fascinating season 2. I have a feeling this could be one of them shows that really finds its stride and ends up being regarded as something of a classic. And I think it's got a lot of potential. And I'm glad we went into the plot in detail, because the plot's been getting a little bit of, I would say, criticism in the Polish media. It's like they don't like a few things about it, like the fact that the guy that wrote the script was an American originally, Joshua Long, and they decided that the plot is over the top, or and it's a bit undercooked. But I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was well done.
Let's take a step back and look
just
at
the right side of complicated.
Bigger picture stuff. Do you think for their very first Polish scripted production, do you think Netflix has done well, or do you think they missed the mark a little bit?
It's not perfect, but it's definitely in the right direction. I mean, it needs work, but I think there's hope for the future, no matter what you think of this show.
I think I'm more or less in agreement with that. I think it doesn't exactly hit the bullseye. There's definitely justified criticisms, but I enjoyed watching it. I didn't think it was a waste of my time. Just that there was a few things that, like the pacing, I think we said, some episodes seemed to drag unnecessarily over unremarkable plot points. Other episodes, you were getting an enormous amount of stuff crammed in very quickly that you couldn't always remember.
Netflix
Did you get to the end, John?
No. Here's the thing. I quit. Full disclosure, I quit after episode 5, and I'll tell you why. It's boring. It's boring. I know I'm the odd man out here, but that's fine.
No, but
it's boring. Wait, let me finish. Okay, you can make some questionable production design decisions. You can have some, overly complicated plot. Okay, but the cardinal sin for any television show or film is to be boring. And for me, it was very boring. I was tired of having to guess what the hell was going on. Just a little bit. And I just said no. I had enough, and I didn't want to play the game that the scriptwriter was trying to drag me through this Joshua Long. It's interesting side note you mentioned, Dave. After episode 1, actually, I noticed that rather. When the credits started rolling, it said written by Joshua Long. I said, what the hell? And so I looked it up, and he has no internet history as a writer on IMDb or anywhere else. I find this very strange. I'd like to know more about it. How as essentially a nobody, you can sell a script to Netflix, and that's a big deal. Even if it's just for a production for one country, that's something. To sell a script to Netflix, you must have some kind of experience in the industry, some kind of contacts. It would be well regarded as a writer, and he has no history apart from his work on 1983. That's very confusing.
Actually, I'm just wondering now, how like in movies when a director really hates the movie, he goes with he takes his name off the movie. I think it's directed by Alan Smith or something like that. Yeah. So maybe this is the same story, that somebody wrote this, didn't like it, and they just stuck Joshua Long on there.
No, he's a real guy. Apparently he lived in Warsaw for a few years and has some connections to some Polish actors, one of whom is in the movie. I can't remember which one is
some stuff in the pipeline on IMDb. He's obviously a rising star. I thought the script was pretty good.
Well, the chap Mushal, who plays Kaya Turner, he's an executive producer. I think it's him and Joshua Long.
Okay.
I didn't really like him. There's something about his childish looking face that upset me on a kind of episode by episode basis. I was hoping to warm to him a bit more than I did.
No, he's not that likable. It's like he seems a bit too much of a brat, and like I was joking earlier, I think he's taking too many privileges with his status as a producer when it comes to those scenes with naked women. I mean, I'm sorry, I have to touch your boob now. It's art.
It's critical for the script and the story. Let me throw this out there. Let me see what you think about this. Again, even bigger picture. Netflix is cool. Netflix is hip and trendy, and Netflix is very good at turning their original programming into a cultural moment, right? House of Cards, Stranger Things, by the way, one of the most overrated series ever. Doesn't mean bad, it means comically overrated. Narcos and stuff like that. And in this Facebook age, when you can see what other people are watching and people like to tell everybody they're watching something, I love Narcos. I love Narcos. Okay, but the point is, it's an example of how Netflix is able to say, look, this is what you're supposed to watch. Now, everybody's watching this. Everybody's watching Stranger Things. Are you insane if you don't watch this? And I think 1983 in the Polish market, obviously, was kind of in that same vein. All these. Did you see the posters at all the bus stops and tram stops and everywhere?
Wow, advertisements.
They did. But
so Orwellian.
It's part of it though, and I think it's just because it's Netflix. It's just something you're supposed to watch because other people are watching it, and again, because it's Netflix, we're primed to like it. We're predisposed to like it before we sit down to watch it. Even.
Well, isn't that
why? And I think people are not totally objective to Netflix programming. They like stuff that's not that great.
Isn't that why we all sat down and agreed to all watch it so that we could talk about it.
Exactly.
Nearly all of us watched it.
Well, I watched part of it.
Dear leader couldn't be bothered as ours. I only had 2 weeks to watch it.
So boring. And in my admittedly limited the survey I did on this, I talked to 4 or 5 Polish friends. No one had a good thing to say about it.
Oh, well, it's going down well in my office, as the girls say.
I have the impression, it's anecdotal, that it's more popular among people like us, foreign people here. I think, in terms of our opinions about it.
And a bag of potatoes, like.
Then the Polish people. I don't know.
Look, I laid out the reasons why I think it's compelling piece of television. I wouldn't give it a good review just because it's on Netflix.
Are you excited about season 2? Are you excited about season 2?
That's what I was discussing with Joshua.
So the answer is not really.
Someone who'd actually finished the series before you came in. And we are quite excited because there's quite a few plot twists and stuff that you missed, John, by not bothering your arse watching 3 episodes. Did you not hear all the stuff about his ma was dead and then she's not dead?
So, I've seen it before.
For me, I got a little tired at one moment because it's like 3 times she went from being dead to alive to dead to alive.
There's too much of that.
Hold on, let's rewind a bit. This scene unfolds in like a library in New York. Yeah, the guy who organised the operation that told her originally she had to pick up the Irish from the beach shows up again on Kaitan's shoulder. That's a wonderful scene. I thought that was a really good finishing scene. It was like the end of a.
He says with that Liam Neeson accent, it was easy to manipulate your mother, but
it was cool. It was really entertaining.
Let me rewind for a second, and Dr. Mike, let me go to you because you're the best qualified. Your Polish is the best here. I have heard from lots of people, and reading this online as well, that people say that the dialogue is really heavy and awkward and kind of not very natural in its flow. Did you pick up on this at all?
I can't put my finger on it, but something does seem wrong, especially the way they swear. They swear there almost only by saying kurwa, which is a very popular Polish swear, but they seem to stick it into spaces and in sentences that just doesn't feel right. And there are other swear words in Polish that are used more often, to kind of in a melodic. Like spierdalaj or something like that, or pierdolone. Those are words that would have fit in a lot of places as cuss words if they wanted to put them, and they just really didn't put them in there.
We have a special coming on Polish swear words soon, by the way. It's very exciting.
And Mike most qualified to speak on that as well. But did you ever get the feeling that it was like some weird Google Translate version of Polish?
Oh, come on, dude. The money they spent on this?
I know, but that's what I don't believe it either, but I hear that over and over and over.
I'll put it this way. I translated a lot of stuff between Polish and English for my dad, a lot of like professional documentation, legal stuff, and it is difficult to do it in a way that sounds natural in both languages. You do it from one language to another. It's like even though everything is grammatically correct and proper, it just doesn't have the right spacing and feel because
flow isn't there.
Exactly, and that's what I kind of feel was missing in this. And when I switched by accident to English at one moment, it actually sounded a little bit better. I don't like dubbing because it always seems kind of uncanny and weird. But
it is weird.
But the dialogue sounded more natural. And I think there was something to it that the guy Joshua wrote it in English and then had people who knew what they were doing translate it to Polish. But even though it's grammatically and everything is right, it's just not the way people would speak in Polish.
And do you think that's because it wasn't kind of organically Polish from the beginning? Do you think that's a result of the translation?
I think that's part of it. Plus, a lot of good shows can take years to produce. It's going back and forth between writers, between producers. Right. It's like on the back stove somewhere, and then finally it comes out when it's ready. But this was, something they put together in a year or something like that. So they had an idea. They put it out there. Is everything ready? They didn't leave it behind and come back to it after 6 months to see, if they want to change anything. They just went with it.
All right, let's go around the room. Let's get our one-sentence final verdict for anyone listening who's thinking about maybe watching 1983. Who's first?
I'll go first. Jump in there, people. Enjoy it. Don't listen to John. He hates everything apart from the Lego Batman movie, which he considers the greatest cinematic achievement in the history of the universe.
Mike?
I wouldn't call it must-see TV, but if you've watched a few episodes, you might have it. To me, it's like, wouldn't mind watching it. You've got some free time.
That's hardly an endorsement, is it?
No, it's got some good points. I won't die if I don't see the second season, but if it comes out, I'll definitely take a look at it.
I'm really looking forward to the geopolitical element, opening up some of the explanations for season 2. There's an awful lot of reasons why I do want to see season 2, but mainly because I found, and I'm just going to say this, I know this is a typical Netflix wanker comment, but it got better as it went on, and I think it's strong. It had a very strong close, the series. The last 3 episodes were all particularly good.
Well, I'm looking forward to season 2 in the hope we get an impression of what the United States was like in the early 2000s under President Al Gore.
All right, I say people don't waste your time. Go watch the Lego Batman movie instead.
And if Cayetan's girlfriend could maybe get the old knockers out next time, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Hey, she already did though. Remember by the villa?
Oh no, I must have been making a sandwich. I eat a lot of sandwiches.
All right, there you go.
Pause on Netflix,
1983 on Netflix. Check it out if you want to. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the KrakCast.